So I believe it was today. I don't know if it was today or yesterday, or maybe a little bit before that, but Trump announces the 1776 commission aimed at establishing what he calls patriotic and pro-America education that will celebrate the miracle of American history and reexaminations of U.S. history, he said, are ideological poison. And I don't want to mispronounce her name, but Yamiche Alcindor, I believe that's how you say her name. I think she's a CNN correspondent or reporter. But she says, President Trump claims the 1619 Project distorts and rewrites American history. He says the project wrongly says America was founded on oppression, not freedom. Fact, and this is her fact, America's founding kidnapped, enslaved Black people were exploited. The consequences of slavery continue today. Now, from my understanding, and I certainly could be wrong on this, now, the consequences of slavery, the second part, the consequences of slavery may continue to be with us today, the consequences of Jim Crow. There are aspects of that. But when she says America's founding kidnapped, enslaved Black people. Now, Black people, the Black Africans, from my understanding, were kidnapped by other Black Africans and were sold to the Europeans. And I don't know if it was Arab middlemen or they got the slaves directly from other Black Africans. There is a whole passage about slavery in the book, in Thomas Sowell's book, Black Rednecks, White Liberals, and I have yet to see anybody dispute or say that these facts are incorrect, and they may be, but I have yet to see or hear people dispute the facts about slavery. And people say that the slavery that Europeans practiced on Black Africans was worse than any other kind of slavery throughout history, because they certainly can't say that slavery was unique to the United States of America, or that it was unique to just Europeans and Black Africans. So they cannot get that argument. But the argument that has recently occurred is a thing called, they've called it chattel slavery. And kind of makes the statement that, that this kind of slavery was particularly heinous and cruel, and had effects that were much more long lasting. And from my understanding, the word chattel slavery didn't appear, and this is just offshoot, but there are some people that say that the word chattel slavery did not even appear until the year 2015. So this is a rather recent phenomenon. about the way history is being told. And the thing of it is, a large portion of the establishment is, I guess, kind of buying into it. And it's not to say that there was a time when, everything about America was considered great and good and decent. There was a time when you only got the perspective from the victors, and the losers, well, they didn't get their stories told, not until recently. And now it's the exact opposite. Everything is told, or it seems like much is told through the victors. Through the victims, and the victors are completely demonized. And you will see quite a bit of this. And there's not really much comparative analysis compared to other countries, because, of course, other countries have their ethnic and racial minorities and how they dealt with them. My question, when people say this kind of treatment is really bad, what the Europeans did to the Africans, the Americans of European descent, what they did to the Americans of African descent, and what they did to the indigenous people that were here before the Europeans. Is there any question compared to what? What type of people did not have a conquest ethic and strive to do what they do and be who they are? It's always kind of a question for me, is, compared to what? Where's your evidence? And I guess I might ask, compared to what? Taking a little bit of a pause here, maybe a little bit of a dramatic pause. And we do have lots of cinema that show American history. And, the truth, the early parts of American history, it showed stuff that was, I guess, would be considered inspiring of American history. Basically, this was a frontier, and America was a good place, and some would say a godly place, and a place of righteous conquest. And it didn't really consider the side of the victims, or the side of the people that we were fighting. And of course, we can go into all of, from Tom Mix to Gary Cooper to John Wayne. I remember John Wayne, and She Wore a Yellow Ribbon. And, the U.S. cavalry was noble and good and striving to primarily do what was right. But there were films that showed sometimes the arrogance of the military leaders, and maybe even the arrogance of some of the leadership. And then you go back, and then you go to the 70s, late 60s and 70s, and you see a little bit more of an approach to get the Indians' side of the story. And we didn't look too good, but like I said, if you look a little deeper, there were no devils or angels in conflict. It is what it is. I mean, for example, the Comanche was very vicious, and the Comanche was for one group of people, and that was the Comanche. And if you were in its way, it killed everybody. So, and I'm not going to get into too much detail on that. And as far as slavery goes, slavery was a worldwide institution practiced by every group, and perhaps from the beginning of time, human beings have enslaved other human beings. And then you will get to after slavery and Jim Crow. You know, there was a letter, a Willie Lynch letter, which has found to be, I mean, lots of evidence proves it to be fraudulent, was written in, I believe it was 1970, but it's in the Denzel Washington film, The Great Debaters. He talks about the Willie Lynch letter, which from my understanding, there was no evidence of it until 1970. I certainly could be wrong, but it's extremely fraudulent. And it's important for these things to be debated and discussed, because there can be emotional rhetoric on both sides, and what we want are facts, are the facts that are presented in the most in the most even-handed way. I mean, just the way it was, not the way you want it to be, but the way that it was. And you have to teach everything from the brutal. You have to be brutally honest if you really want to get deep down into the nitty and the gritty. There was a lot of awful things done in this country on many sides, but there should be a comparative analysis about the history of human strife and the history of conflict, where we have a bit of a nuanced approach. I mean, for example, the caste system in India, many have called that racism on steroids. So it's just somewhat of a food for thought here. I want to mention hi to Nick, Wayne, and Coach Shangy. Coach Shangy has a lot of interesting perspectives on his show there. But I think there needs to be open and honest discussion and debate. And it seems to me that the people who were promoting the 1619 project were not necessarily up for debate. And had they been, there may have been people willing to listen now. We have started a real balkanization of the country with very hostile and possibly even violent factions going into it. And I think the best way to deal with that is hopefully level-headed people can talk and discuss history and, see, just examine the facts and see if what things are said and what people believe, if it really stands up to its bootstraps. Hey, this has been Brian with Transparency and Merit. Like and subscribe. And if you disagree, I would prefer that you leave a comment down below. If you put a thumbs down, leave a comment below. So yeah, like and subscribe, and leave a comment below. And also, now I want to mention here, we have Jamal X, and he is Hurricane Sally. Is Hurricane Sally White? Hurricane Sally, and he has a thumbs down, and you know, you never know if it's just an avatar, if he is the same Jamal X that that was in Portland, striving to physically intimidate Patriot Prayer. He's a very aggressive person, or seems to be very aggressive, physically aggressive. And I'm surprised that authorities allow this, and that that we're not allowed to defend ourselves against someone who encroaches upon us. In my opinion, I think that if someone encroaches upon you, this is a question, if someone encroaches upon you and is physically aggressive, what rights do you have to stop that encroachment? I'm not a big fan of people who like to encroach and do that. I think that there's a big portion of me that thinks that self-defense with deadly force is allowed, should be legally allowed for someone who is forcefully aggressive and encroaches. There's only one reason to encroach upon somebody, and that is to do physical harm. So anyway, this has been Brian with Transparency and Merit, wishing you a bid adieu. I'm going to get into the whole thing of encroachment, and I would like to have you on, Jamal X, because you seem to be a person who thinks that they have the right to encroach upon people, and I find that extremely objectionable. I one time had a caning initiative, something they do in Singapore for individuals that break the law. They are hit with a baton and are caned. Malcolm Little. Was that Malcolm Little's, is Hurricane Sally, was that Malcolm Little's girlfriend? Anyway, folks, I'm glad Jamal X came in. Again, Malcolm X himself was a master Stoic. Jamal X, if you are the same person, you, sir, are not a master Stoic. You are a very emotional person, and maybe bipolar. I'm not sure. You exhibit signs of hypomanic behavior, but I certainly could be wrong on that, with a touch of narcissism. Anyway, folks, this has been Brian with Transparency and Merit. Hey, like and subscribe, and leave a comment down below. And thank you all for joining, even if you disagree with me. If you're polite, I'm polite. If you're not, well, I have the right not to be polite either. I give respect first. You earn my disrespect. All right, like and subscribe. Thank you for listening. And those of you who are listening on this, put a thumbs up and share this thing. Thank you.